It's the Behind the Shade show.
Because in my 20s, and maybe you're this way, Angel, we're invincible, right?
Oh yeah.
We can dodge bullets. We could, jump out of bed without having bad knees and bad back. We could do
Yes.
all of these things. And what's something that you noticed that was the biggest change in your life where you're like, aha, I gotta move differently?
Right before I was diagnosed, I would come home. I had a 2-hour commute one way. And so I would get home from work after working all day. And the last probably 2 miles of the drive, I was already starting to dread walking in the house because I knew getting up out of the car and moving into the house, I would almost be in tears. And I remember thinking, I'm in my early 40s. What's it going to be like when I'm in my 80s? And it was like that was sort of I knew before I ever even went to the doctor, I knew that changes were coming. I just didn't know what changes they were going to be, but I knew something had to change because my body had just gotten to the point it just could not continue the path I was on.
How scary was that for you to realize here you are approaching midlife? And I say that with love,
Mhm.
right? And you're like, wow, what is life going to be 10 years, 20 years, 15 years from now?
It was terrifying. It really was. And then when you finally go sit in front of your doctor and they are looking at the same labs you're looking at and they're telling you that, yeah, there's really not much you can do. Autoimmune, there's really just not much you can do for that. And my brain said, that's not true. That was my brain. That's not true. And I told my doctor, I'm not going to take medication. Give me 3 months. If I can't make changes in 3 months that have an impact on me, I will come back. I will take the medicine. I'll do whatever you say. But give me 3 months to prove to myself, because I have to prove to myself that I cannot do it first. And I mean, I did a complete overhaul. So it wasn't just changing what I ate, changing what I drank. It was a complete overhaul. It was a complete negativity purge. So I changed what was on my social media. I changed the movies and the TV shows that I watched. I changed the music that I listened to. My goal was if it created this, oh my gosh, response, it had to go. It had to go because you cannot heal in a negative environment. And as I started changing those things, along with the food, the things that I drank, taking the right supplements, just those subtle little changes, I started noticing I was feeling better. Then as I implemented more and more and more, it literally becomes addictive because you start not only seeing it, but you're feeling it. Other people are noticing it, and it's like this is real. There's something to this. And I literally went to the deep end and just jumped in head first, and I've yet to look back. So,
That is such a courageous story because one, not a lot of people can turn off the TV. Let's be honest, right? And not a lot of people can maybe remove people from their lives or maybe remove themselves from environments that are no longer serving them. Where did you find the courage to say, today is the day? Anything that isn't serving me, anything that is negative, anything that makes me feel unwell, I'm no longer going to be a part of it.
um, I'll try not to get very emotional. My biggest motivation was my children. My children. You know, the minute we know we're going to be parents, and then they lay that baby in our arms, we say, I would do anything for this child. I would do anything. But would we really do anything? Would we do the hard things? Would we do the inner work? Would we learn to change our coping mechanisms? Would we learn to eat better? Would we learn to deal with the past traumas and hurts? Would we dig in deep? I mean, yes, we would sacrifice. We would go to war for him if we had to. We would do all of these things, but would we do the deeper work? And sitting in that chair, I realized very quickly I would do the deeper work because I had a car accident several years ago, and the good Lord allowed me to survive that. And the only thing that during that car accident, the only thing on my mind was God gave me two children, and He didn't give them to anyone else to raise. He gave them to me. And so I've got to be here to raise these children. Well, fast forward, now I've got this diagnosis, and it's like, okay, well, next level of the game, I have to step up even more because, I have to be able to show them the path so that they can avoid having health issues down the road. And my kids were my biggest motivator. They still are. And now it's become all of the people that I work with because as I see them healing and them improving, it's like this is awesome. This is so awesome to see this movement happening and people not just getting their lives back, but having an amazing quality of life as they move through their lives and their years with their family.
If your children are watching, what would you want to tell them in regards to how much of an inspiration and impact they have on your life to be the woman that you are right now?
So I have two biological, and then my nephew is my third kid. So basically, I have three children. Um, my kids have been the biggest motivating factor, and they have provided me with a desire to learn myself better so that I could turn around then and be better for them and be better with them. We're supposed to raise our children and teach them, but in many ways, my kids have taught me many things, not only about being a mother, but about myself. And without my children, I would not be the person I am today. My children have been the biggest impact on my life.
There's so many people that they pull inspiration or motivation from different sources, and children are such a blessing because you get to see these human beings form into beautiful adults in many cases, but sometimes we forget how, as we're teaching them to grow, they're teaching us to grow as well. You mentioned some of the people that you work with. When you're speaking to them, when they're sharing their stories, how much of yourself do you see in them?
In the beginning, 99% of the people I work with, I see them starting where I was at. And so anytime somebody comes in to work with me, I typically I ask a few questions, but the first question that I ask is always going to tell me where they're at and how they're going to respond to the path that they're on. And the question is always on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the worst, 10 is the best. How much do you truly love yourself? How much do you love yourself in comparison to your spouse, to your children, to your parents, to your coworkers, to your best friend? How much do you love yourself? And majority of people, when I start with them, they'll say, about a 4 or 5. Okay. So we start there. So do you do things for others out of obligation? Oh, absolutely. Well, you lose a point. Do you do when you don't have it in you, when you are just completely wiped out, but you still pick up and go for others? Oh, yes. Well, you lose a point. And we go through this whole questionnaire, and what we find is 99% of the people that I work with, they tend to start their self-love at about a 1 or a 2. Now, when you love yourself at a 1 or a 2, you are not taking care of yourself. No matter how much you think that you're not. And there's so many studies, but there are multiple studies of two women, very same backgrounds, same age, same demographics, same everything, both stage 4 breast cancer. One lives, one dies. What was the deciding factor? And many of the studies that they've done, they find that the person who survives is fights as hard for themselves as they would have if this would have been their spouse going through treatment or their child or their parent. They advocate for themselves just like they would that person. They take rest for themselves just like they would encourage, this person to rest. They set boundaries. They don't go when they don't have that extra energy. And this isn't a puffed up self-love. This isn't a self-conceit or anything like that, but this is strictly the, the Bible says we are to love others as ourself. God does not tell us to love others more or less, but equal, because in his eyes, we are all equal. He doesn't look at you and say, okay, well, now your mom's more important and your wife and your children. No, he sees all of them equal across the board. They're his children. He loves each one of them individually equally. We're the ones who put a different level of love to each person in our life sometimes. And we always tend to put ourselves last. And whenever you're dealing with someone who has a low self-love, it is almost always an indicator that they are going to have chronic health issues at some point in their life.